Hi, this is Donna from Clever Crafting. Thank you for joining me today. So today we are making this, what I've called a triple point card. I'm not exactly sure if that's the proper name for it, but it's definitely what I'm calling it. And you can see that it stands up beautifully and it's just a nice different card. So we're going to start with a piece of cardstock that was 25 centimeters by 12.5 centimeters, and folded in half it gives us 12.5 by 12.5 card base. So you can see that I've cut one piece of paper a little bit smaller. It was 12 centimeters by 12 centimeters, and the other two are exactly the same size as the card base, but we'll explain a little bit more about that as we go along. So I am just marking the center point on the bottom of the front of the card base, and then I am going to mark the center point on one side of the three larger pieces of cardstock. That's not cardstock, actually, it's pattern paper. The reason that I'm doing this and we're starting with all the same sizes so we get the same angle when we cut our little triangles. So, and I just marked that one using my mat. Now, if you work in inches, this is all 5 inches by 5 inches. So, all right, so we're going to start with the front of the card, and we're going to cut from the corner, the fold line, the score line right at the edge there, and we're going to cut to that point. So I'm popping this in my Tim Holtz paper trimmer on an angle, and I'm going to cut it. Now you can do this in any sort of paper trimmer, or if you wanted to, you could use a ruler and a knife, or you could draw a line and cut it with a pair of scissors. It doesn't really matter. Whatever you've got available will absolutely work for this. So you can see that I've just spun it around, and now I'm cutting the other one from the center point at the base to that point where the fold is right at the edge. And so now we've got the triangle, the first triangle on our card base. This is just some shiny paper. You can use anything you like. I'm making a mat, and I'm doing exactly the same thing, except this time I don't do it from a fold line. I'm doing it from the top corners. So and cutting through. So I'm going to do this on the 3 pieces that are the same size as my card and not on the piece that's smaller. As I mentioned, the reason that I do this is because we want to make sure the angles are all correct, and we are then going to trim them down for the matting in a moment. So this is how we're going to trim it down for the matting to make sure that everything's nice and neat. So I have just positioned that. I've turned it upside down so I can draw on the back of this piece of metallic card. And I am going to grab my pencil and just put a tiny little line where I want to cut it. So I've kept the same edge around. I made it so it was in from the edge from the bottom one. And then I marked it at the top so it would have the same sort of edge all the way around. Now these are the pieces that I cut off the card, and I'm going to do the same here. So you can see that what I'm doing is I'm making the point, I'm making it nice and even. And it's even on both sides, and now I'm going to mark it at the top the same distance in from the edge, and that's where I want to cut it. Now I only have to mark one of those because I will just pop those two together and cut them at the same time in my paper trimmer, because this is just paper, this metallic stuff. Now this is a matte layer that's optional. You don't have to do this matte layer, or this could just be your pattern paper and you would do it this size and you wouldn't have another layer on top. But I really liked the idea of putting that. Plus the piece that I'm putting on the top I've used some of that blue metallic paper on as well, my little embellishment that I created. So I wanted it all to line up and match. So now I am just going to trim those pieces off. So that's where I wrote, put the little mark on it, and I'm cutting it off. So sorry about that, excuse me. So you can see that I've now got that nice even edge all the way around. So now I'm going to do it with my patterned papers, and I'm going to move it up and I'm going to mark it. Now you'll notice that I had 3 pieces that I cut that are larger on the list that I've actually got in the details below. Actually, what I've got in the details below is a link to a PDF of the list that you need so you can get all of the stuff together. It's easily printable. So in that I've only got that you only need 1 piece of patterned paper, and I've used 2 different ones here because these are all from the same pack of paper pack. It's from the Clever Crafters kit for July 2022. And I just wanted to pop it all together, mix and match it. So I've actually got enough of the patterned paper to make 2 cards. Because I use 2 different patterns that coordinate with one another, I'm using the 2 patterns on this one card, and then I'll reverse it around on the next card that I'll make. Actually, now that I'm doing the voiceover, I've already done it. So now it's just a matter of putting all of these pieces together. Now that we've got all of the ingredients, it's just a matter of popping some glue on it and positioning it on the card, making sure that I've got that nice little edge all the way around. I could have actually cut something out of the center of this metallic paper too, because we're not going to see that center part there, and I could have used it for something else, but I just wasn't prepared for that this time, which is fine. I mean, it's just paper, really. And if I did that, I'd probably just taught it anyway. All right, so now I'm popping a piece on top that will coordinate with it all. So you can see that's the different pattern that doesn't have the shells on it. But you can see up in the upper left-hand corner there that I've got the leftover pieces that I can make another card with. All right, so now that I've layered all of those pieces, how I'm going to position this is I've actually got the right angle. So I've flipped these up, not the way that I cut them out, and I've got the right angle over near the edge of the paper, of the card. And then the point of the triangle at the top. Now, all I did there was just have a look and see what section was going to be attached to my center section, and I've just put my finger there as a guide and popped some glue on it. So you can see those 2 points meet on the left-hand side at the top, and the lower point lines up on the bottom of the card to the bottom edge of the back of the card. So once I do that, I think I must have cut it out, but I always lift it up to make sure I didn't put too much glue. So you can see here what I'm doing is I'm lining it up, grabbing at the section that I don't want the glue, just using that where my finger is as a guide so I don't put too much glue on it. I always put too much glue anyway, so I don't know why I bother. Anyhow, that's fine. So I'm just gluing that there. Lovely. Pick it up, none of it's glued behind. That's fantastic. So now the other piece that we cut that was a bit smaller, you can see that this is a plainer piece. It's from the same paper pad, and I'm just popping glue around that and sticking it down. Now, this is all pattern paper, but it's good quality, 160 GSM. I think it's from Kaiser Craft. It came in this kit. And yeah, so it doesn't, the wet glue is all good and fine on it. So this is the embellishment I made using some ephemera and some scraps of paper and stuff out of the kit. And I'm just going to pop that on top. And it's so simple. Look at that, beautiful. So there's our card. And as we've already seen, it will stand up. I think I'll show you that here again. So, and it's it's a different little thing. It looks lovely on display. I hope you give this a try, and if you do, I'd love you to show us your design or your finished product on our Facebook page. I'll put a link for that down below. I'd really appreciate it if you enjoyed this and you learned something today. If you subscribe to my channel, the more subscribers I've got, the better it is, of course. And getting a thumbs up is also really good for me with the YouTube algorithms. So this is just a few close-ups to it, adding a little bit more so you can see. Of course, you could do any designs. All right, I hope you had fun, and until next time, stay safe and happy crafting.